Welcome everybody. It's a great day to be here. I'm glad you're here. I got the count from the front desk, 142. I don't know how many on Zoom, but thanks.
35.
How many?
35.
All right, way cool. So we're, so that's very nice. We've got some stuff going on this afternoon, some stuff going on tonight. So I know all you can't make all of them, but please try to make the ones you can. So I'm Mike Falk. I'm your host today, and let's get it rolling. First off, Pledge of Allegiance. A moment of silence for our friends in Ukraine. All right, take up this next slide coming up. Take a picture of that. It'll be easy on Zoom, it'll be a little harder here, but this is what you can do to help. There's some websites there. You can also Google this, and you'll find a lot of places that do offer giving to help in Ukraine. What a tragic situation over there. I've got Ukrainian friends in Minneapolis, so I know they've got a lot of support groups going there too. Thanks, Amy. Well, I know that last week and a half, couple weeks, has been a kind of an emotional roller coaster with certainly there's, the leak of the Supreme Court decision. We probably all knew it was coming, but the Republicans are saying, well, the leak is the problem, not the ruling. So I guess what it comes down to is all three of these judges, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett, said that it was settled law, and apparently they didn't open on it, or something else. So anyway, so I think on the bottom, they lied to us. They certainly lied to the senators. They lied during the confirmation process. But they'll, of course, parse words and spin that and say, well, it wasn't really that. But you can make your own decision. Thanks, Amy.
In the 2018 midterm election, over 52% of Floridians voted. The largest group were seniors, more women than men, and less than 50% of blacks and Hispanics. We do not have a government by the majority. We have a government by the majority who participate. Thomas Jefferson. Governor DeSantis won by just over 32,000 votes, and Senator Scott won by just over 10,000 votes. Unfortunately, over 1.7 million Democrats did not vote that year. In Sumter County, of the registered Democrats, almost 6,000 did not vote. When you don't vote, what you're really doing is letting someone else take power over your own life. Michelle Obama. Voting is why generations of Americans have struggled to win. The consequences of not turning out and doing everything you can to get your friends, neighbors, family to turn out. The consequences of you staying at home would be profoundly dangerous to this country, to our democracy. Barack Obama. If you have any questions about voting, please contact the Sumter County Democratic Party. We are here to help you because we want every voter to vote and every vote to be counted.
I bet everybody in here, I bet everybody in here has voted in every election that they've been able to vote for. Since they've been 18 or 21, I don't know what the age was in. I know it was 18 for a while, and then it was 21, and it was 18. But I know I voted for every local, off-year, school board, state, county, general election since I've been able to vote. And that's a sobering statistic when you're talking that over 1 million Democrats didn't vote, and that could have swung the election. So these votes count, everybody. But the president of the Village Democratic Women's Club. And also, Dean Melvin's going to be speaking this afternoon as well at noon. So try to make it. If you can, that'd be great. If you've got other plans, I know it came up with short notice with the abortion ruling. So try to join, see you there. Okay, tonight at La Hacienda, at 7 p.m. at the Carmen Miranda Room, there's going to be a full quartet, and this is a donation fundraiser. It's free to get in. It's free to everybody to get in, not just villagers. And we're asking for people to give $15, and that money will go to, all the proceeds will go to the social kids up in the Ocala Forest. And we appreciate that, so get there early to get a seat up front. And I assume that Diane fully set this up. I don't know how many it's set up for, probably at least a couple hundred people, so there's room for everybody. Way cool.
They're really good too, if you haven't heard them.
Pardon?
They're really good too.
Okay. I know they're better than I could do. Okay. Now I'll take a picture. This is how to ask questions on using the chat window. So make sure you know that if you're online, and because that's just easier. Raise your hand. There's actually a hand will go up in the corner, yellow hand. It won't do that, Andy?
No, we're not using the raised hand, we're using the chat instead.
Okay. My mistake. He should be talking here then. Okay. Next slide, Amy. Is that it?
Yeah, this is for the cell phone.
Oh, okay. They're not the same. Okay. So these are different on different devices. You probably noticed that on your PC it's different, that on your cell phone it's different, on your iPad it's different. So this is also what you'll see on a mobile device. And I know that I always have to use one of those rubber-ended pen things when I'm on something small. So do what you can on that.
Morning, Democrats. Morning. I know you're going to be sad about this. Today is the last day that we're collecting petitions until the next election, which will be a couple of years. These have to be turned in to the supervisor of election by noon on Monday. So if you have not had a chance to, if 12 people didn't accost you and ask you to fill out a petition, their blank ones are available up front. We collected a whole gugop today, so thank you for that. So this, if you want to elect people who are, pro-woman, pro-choice, and so on, this is one way to do it. You have to be on the ballot to do that. One of the big programs that we're working on this year is called Neighborhood Links. And if you're not interested in being a precinct captain, because that may be a little bit too much work in retirement, but you would be willing to talk to people on your street or on the street surrounding, we've created a program called the Neighborhood Links. And please talk to our team, Chris Anderson, Ann Bird, Lydia Bush, and so on. So, and we set you up with training and materials and so on. We also have a volunteer sheet that you can sign up to help with. We have voting by mail cards. And again, voting by mail is a turnout issue. Democrats who are not enrolled in vote by mail voted about a 60% rate. You know, as Mike suggested, the people in this room, I probably couldn't do anything to stop you from voting. So you're really not our targeted audience. We're really concentrating on the inconsistent voters in Sumter County. So with your help, you know, we had a 78% turnout in 18, and we had over an 86% Democratic turnout. So a fabulous turnout in Sumter County. So thank you for your effort. I see someone, and I see someone else is here. So anyway, thank you for your help, and our office open over in Wildwood 3 days a week.
Okay, well, what you've all been waiting for, Senator Taddeo is here. Welcome to the Villages. Welcome to the Villages Democratic Club, Senator Taddeo. If you're ready, take it away.
Buenos dias. Good morning. I am so delighted to be back here. It's been a while, but great to see many of you again. And I'm just so happy to be with all of you in the midst of a very difficult time in Florida and in our country. And I know that I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story for those of you who do not know me and do not know my story as to why I'm in this race and why I think I'm the best candidate to beat Ron DeSantis. But let me start, thank you. Let me start by saying that I know you guys know that we have a red tide problem. The red tide problem in our water kills our fish. It is really bad to bring tourists here when all the water looks so bad, the dead fish in the water, and it smells really bad. But we have another red tide problem. And that red tide problem is in Tallahassee. But the Tallahassee red tide problem actually suppresses voters' rights and it kills democracy. And that's why I'm running for governor, so that we can get rid of the Tallahassee red tide. Now listen, this fight won't be easy, I know that. And you guys know about tough fights. But let me say that I am the daughter of an American fighter pilot. My dad fought in World War II, he fought the Nazis. And he always told me, honey, when the cost is just, don't stand in the sidelines. Get in there and fight for what you believe. And boy, I needed that fighting spirit that I got from him from the minute I was born. You see, I was born with half my mouth missing. I was born with what's called a bilateral cleft lip. I couldn't drink from my mother's breast milk. I knew that, I mean, I didn't know that, but it was very difficult to learn how to speak when you're missing parts of your mouth. It took 19 surgeries so I can be here in front of all of you and smile big. And after all those bullying growing up, and that fighting spirit got me through those 19 surgeries, all the bullying, and let me tell you, I don't just speak English, yo también hablo español. Now, I needed that fighting spirit again when at the age of 17, in the farm that I grew up in Colombia, the FARC, a Marxist terrorist group, took over the farm and kidnapped my father. I found myself fleeing to the United States, to Alabama, of all places. Anyone from Alabama? Oh, look. And I found myself having to learn English and learn how to survive on my own for the first time in my life, and without my parents. It was a very difficult time, but that fighting spirit from my dad's got me through it. And I have to tell you, I learned a really tough lesson. Oh, I'm the screen. I learned a really tough lesson in college at the University of North Alabama, where I decided I was going to run for student government secretary. And I put posters all over the school with my smiling face, and it said Annette Taddeo for secretary. And I will tell you, on the day of the election, as I was going over to go vote, the posters no longer said Annette Taddeo for secretary. They said Annette Taddeo for deportation. It was a very tough lesson. And I decided, though, at that moment, at that young age, I decided, you know what? I could be angry, or I could be bitter, or I could allow this moment to strengthen and inspire me. Because even in those early 20 years of my life, I knew that, boy, what makes this country so great is the fact that it doesn't matter the color of your skin, your gender orientation, where you come from, how you speak or the accent you have. What makes it so great is the strength in that diversity and our knowledge that in America, when the cause is just, you get in there and you fight for what is right. So after college, I moved to Miami, where I currently represent in the Florida Senate, a very conservative district that Trump won by 6 points. So you guys know what that is like. But I'm a proud, lifelong Democrat that won in a +6 Trump seat. So I want you to know that when I moved to Miami, I started my own business, and I like to say for 30 years I've met a payroll, and unlike Ron DeSantis, for 30 years, I've signed the front of the paycheck, not just the back. And let me tell you, in that special election, the party called me and they told me not to run, that I couldn't win, that it couldn't be done. And you know what I said? I said, you know, I don't ask my husband what to do. I don't know what makes you think I'm gonna ask the powers that be for permission. And we went on, and we beat what they call the next Marco Rubio. They spent $10 million, not just attacking me as a socialista and a comunista, but they also called me a terrorist sympathizer. And we beat them with my personal story. And not only did we win, but we won by 4 points, and then I got reelected. And let me tell you, that was a historic win because it was the first flip from red to blue of a seat in the entire country after Trump got elected. So it was a big deal, and I became the first Latina Democrat to serve in the Florida Senate. I can't believe it took that long, right? In 2017. I also became the first Latina Jew in the Florida legislature history. So I want to tell you why this is so important that I'm telling you, not just to tell you my story, but to tell you about the numbers. A lot of people are saying that DeSantis can't be beat. Have you heard this? He's unbeatable. They are wrong. But we do have some issues. Let me explain. Biden, in the last election, had the worst collapse in Florida history in Miami-Dade County. In Miami-Dade County, Biden did 23 points less than Hillary Clinton. 15 points less than Andrew Gillum. And you know why that happened? Because we did not fight back the attacks on socialism and defund police. And we must fight back, and we must get back the Latino vote in order for us to win. I know that I can get back the Latino vote. I know that I can fight back against those attacks. And let me tell you, at a time when we are living through a governor that wants to ban books, ban women making their own decisions, wants to ban saying gay, wants to ban, I mean, you go on and on and on, and look at the new secretary, it's not the secretary, she just named somebody, he just named somebody for our elections, and of course, he now has his election police, and all of the fraud that they have been doing all over the state. By the way, I just won a case 2 days ago that I started a lawsuit in August of 2020. I started a lawsuit because right here in Central Florida, in one of the state Senate races, they used this hidden money that they used also in South Florida. There were 3 different races that they played in, and I've been fighting for them to tell us who funded all these phantom candidates. And we just won. The judge said, Senator Taddeo is correct. You have to show everyone in the Sunshine State, what a concept, where did the money come from, who funded, because a lot of people voted for other candidates because they get confused and they have very similar names, all these tricks that they play because they can't win by the rules like we like to play by the rules. But in the Sunshine State, we should let all that out. So I'm very proud of that, and I will continue to fight. I will continue to fight the real fraud going on in Florida, which is being done by the Republican Party. So let me tell you that if we, just in the top 5 counties, where there's a large Hispanic population, if we simply increase our percentages from Biden to the percentages that we had gotten historically, for example, with Hillary Clinton, that would be an additional 350,000 votes on the Democratic side. Remember, this guy got elected by barely 30,000 votes. That's why it matters. And you know, I know this race will not be easy. I've been saying that. And the mountain is high. But let me tell you, and close with this, why I believe, no matter how tough, that we can win this race. And there's an experience I had after I won my special election, where my university called me and they said, Annette, we want you to come back to the University of North Alabama, and we want you to tell us, you're now elected. This is exciting. Tell us your story. Tell us what made you want to be in public service. And I said yes, because it's a big honor to go give your commencement speech at your alma mater. But then I was like, oh goodness, should I go back to Alabama and tell them how this whole thing got started? I don't know. This is a very red county. I don't know how they're gonna react. Are they gonna boo me? Are they gonna throw me out? But at the end, I decided I needed to tell my story because it's bigger than me. It's bigger than the politics of hate and division. And so that's what I did. I went in their stadium full of graduates, their parents and friends on the stands, just full of people. And I told my story in my accented English with my big smile. And you know what? I wasn't booed, I wasn't thrown out, I got a standing ovation. And that's why I believe, because I know that if we talk about what brings us together, not what differentiates us, What we need to do is bring people together, create the coalition of voters, black, brown, old, young, everything together and bring them out to vote, not simply to vote against somebody, but let's make sure that we vote for somebody. And that is how we're going to win. Yo soy Annette Taddeo, voy a ser la primera gobernadora hispana en la historia de la Florida, and my friends, that's how we're going to win. Thank you.
Okay, we could do, is this on? Okay, we could do Q&A. Senator, we can get them from the floor. We'll also get some people from the Zoom session. So, anyway, there's a mic over there. There's one on that side, I believe. So, if anyone has questions, please walk up to the mic.
Welcome, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
DeSantis has really done a number on education in the state of Florida. What exactly would you do to help build back public education and assure teachers that you have their back?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I am delighted you asked that question. I am the only parent in the primary. I have a child in public school, and I wouldn't be the successful businesswoman I am if it weren't for my public education, both high school and college. And let me say this. I am so passionate about education. It's our one equalizer in this country, that everyone has an opportunity to a brighter future. So I have been an advocate for public education the entire time I have been elected, but let me tell you about some of the things that I want to make sure that we do. First of all, we gotta fully fund our education, trust our teachers to teach. This is what they're trained to do. I have to tell you, I go to the PTA meetings, I go to all these meetings, and now all of a sudden all these moms are showing up, and you ask them, where does your kid go to school? They don't go to public school, but they want to tell us who send our kids to public school what we should and shouldn't do. By the way, every one of those things that they pulled out, the books that have been banned, the rules that they have made about what you can and cannot do, the lawsuits that the teachers are going to get sued, these things are actually not happening in charter schools, not happening in private schools, because when we stood up and said, does this apply to everyone in Florida? They said, no, only public schools. That's unbelievable, because many of these private and charter schools are actually being funded by us, the taxpayers, but they don't have to follow the same rules. The teachers don't have to have the same kind of requirements that the teachers in the public school do. They don't have to take all the testing that our kids do, which is excessive as it is, but yet they don't have to do it, so we don't even know if those kids are learning, if those kids are truly being educated like they should be. And when we ask them, okay, if you're going to ban books, which is not okay, then please don't burn them. We had an amendment for them to send it to another area that may not have a problem with this book or these types of books. Well, they voted against burning the books. Historically, but I guess since I don't like to study history, historically we know what that brings back. It's completely unacceptable that on a party line all these people voted against burning books. So I'm telling you, in the bill, for example, in the bill for the CRT, they actually, in this bill, it says, and I want you to pay attention to two lines. One line says, in its current law, Florida shall teach the Holocaust. That's good. Next line now says, Florida may teach African American history. That's how bad this is. I want you to know that this is now in Florida law. How wrong is that? Because if we don't learn, if my child doesn't learn from history, history repeats itself. We cannot allow this. This is why this race is so important. This is why we as Democrats need to make sure we win, because we are going backwards when it comes to rights of minorities, of women, and our kids. I can't believe that our kids, my daughter is growing up at a time when she's gonna have less rights than I have had. It's completely unacceptable. But I want to talk about some of my proposals for education, besides making sure that there's an equalizer. If you get taxpayer dollars, you are going to open up your books. We're going to know what you're doing on these for-profit corporations. We are going to make sure that the same rules that apply for public schools apply to anyone else that is taking public dollars. And I know how important early education is, so I have proposed that we expand early childhood education and fully fund it. I have a proposal to expand pre-K to a full day. Who works 3 hours a day? Have you seen the signs everywhere that say, we're hiring, we're hiring? Guess what? It is not that people don't want to work. It's that they can't afford to live here. They can't afford to work here because they have to figure out who's going to take care of their kids. And guess what? That's an investment in our kids' future. Because when we don't invest in that early childhood education, what ends up happening is then they come into first grade and we end up doing remediation, which costs more. And it's almost too late, and then we create this path to a future of incarceration instead of a brighter future. Guess what? We spend $13 a day on pre-K education, but we spend over $60 a day to actually incarcerate many of the kids that we didn't invest in early on so they could have that bright future. That's going to be a difference.
I have a question. I recently had a shoulder operation, and mine was a torn rotator cuff. And when I saw what the hospital and the doctors billed, Medicare, it was like $40,000. Medicare actually only paid, all was said was something about $4,000, $5,000. But if I didn't have Medicare, I would have to pay the other $35,000. My question is, are you going to try to propose any legislation to keep people from being gouged by these hospitals and doctors for medical expenses that they would have normally taken less from an insurance company?
Thank you so much, and I'm glad everything turned out good with you. I will tell you that obviously this is a huge problem. We've all seen the bills when you get one and you're like, what is this? And how much is it for a Tylenol? And these kinds of, if you really look at the detail, it's quite amazing. But we do have a major problem with our health care. And part of the reason why you're seeing some of this is because, again, we haven't really paid that much attention to make sure. But your question about Medicare and hospitals is some of it is federal, so I want to be cognizant of that and what we can do at the state. But the things that we can do at the state is that many of us, I don't know if you guys know this, but many of us are paying for the fact that this governor has refused to expand Medicaid. And it is hidden. You don't even see it in your bill, like you just saw. You don't even see it in your bill. What happens is there's a $2,000 hidden tax every time you go to a hospital. And the hospital doesn't pay for it. The doctor doesn't pay for it. The insurance, sure as heck, is not paying for it. You and I are paying for it. And that number doesn't come from some liberal think tank or just Annette Taddeo. It comes from the Florida Chamber of Commerce, who said this is a terrible business decision not to expand Medicaid. So going back to your question about what are we going to do? Look, we need to make sure that we have a government that is actually truly paying attention to what hospitals are doing, and that we have an actual Surgeon General that believes in science, so that we can actually make sure that we protect people. Sir, that is, again,
Question that I had
Yes.
was, hospitals are gouging people and are taking less if you have insurance. That's criminal. And it should be addressed on a criminal level.
Again, it is true, and I'm not saying that it isn't, but we haven't had any kind of anyone trying to regulate any of this.
Well, are you going to try to regulate it?
Well, sir, I'm trying to get elected so that I can actually make a difference in the state, so
You still
yes.
didn't answer me. Are you going to try to regulate it?
I said yes. Anyone else? Let me, while we're on healthcare, let me say that I have been the sponsor of expanding Medicaid since I got to the state Senate. And, you know, there's a lot of promises that a lot of politicians make, and they can't deliver. And let's be real. We win the governor's mansion, we're still not gonna have the House or the Senate. How are we gonna get anything done? That should be the question. And I will tell you, I am very proud of the fact that even though I'm in the minority, even though I am a Democrat, and again, a lifelong Democrat, I have been able to get things accomplished. I have been able to work across the aisle to get things done. And Medicaid expansion is actually something I can promise. So, why do I say this? Because I know we have the numbers in the House and the Senate from Republicans who agree, who have seen the studies from the Chamber of Commerce. And these folks will vote for it, especially when you have a governor with a veto pen just waiting and to get those last few votes that we may need to get it done. That in itself is such a huge relief for the state of Florida, because we are leaving billions of dollars, our dollars, that we sent to Washington on the table. And we have to cover that constantly. And then we don't end up funding many of the hospitals, especially hospitals that serve the indigent community. So then what happens? They have to raise prices on different people so that they can cover for the rest in some other that can't afford it. This is, the rest of us are paying for this. We must get it done. And I can tell you, I don't like to promise things I can't do because I know the realities. But I can tell you that we can expand Medicaid. That is the one thing that I know that I can get done.
We've got questions too on Zoom.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
We have a couple of questions. Since we're on healthcare, I want to go to the second one first. Our user says, 3 weeks ago, I had a breakthrough COVID infection and was surprised to learn there was no place in Florida where I could report my positive home test results. It's clear, therefore, that the disease is being underreported here, possibly significantly. What do you think about this?
I think it's horrible, and I think we need a health department in the state of Florida that actually reports the numbers. We need a Surgeon General that actually believes in science. We need to make sure that we get back to taking care of Floridians, not being worried about what Iowa and New Hampshire thinks, but actually worry about Floridians and their health. So that's what I would say. We would have complete transparency, just like we should have it for elections. And I just told you about the lawsuit when they are trying to hide things and they're trying to play games. So the point is, yes, what I would change is we would actually tell people, hey, the numbers are going back up. And by the way, I know that we're all aware that the numbers are going back up. And this is a concern for all of us, and we should be concerned about the fact that we already have a shortage of nurses. We already have a shortage of lots of healthcare professionals. They have been through a lot, and they have truly stepped up for us, but the point is, many of them have left the profession and are really have said enough. And this is a major, major problem in a state of Florida where we have much more of a population in need of health care than most other states. And I think we need to pay a lot more attention to this and encourage more of them to come into the state and work here versus try to make them feel like they're not doing the right thing because they listen to science or follow science. So, big difference between me and DeSantis, that's for sure. Next question.
Thank you. One more question. How will you overcome the fact that Charlie Crist is better known than you are?
Well, first of all, yes, great question, actually. I am, this race, first of all, let me say something about Charlie, because the last time I was here, I was his running mate. And I think that it's really important for people to know that this is not about Charlie, this is not about Nikki, this is not about me. This is about making sure that we have the best person to beat Ron DeSantis.
Thank you.
No, I haven't finished. I just want to tell you that, because I didn't answer the name recognition issue. Look, at this point, in the last cycle, Andrew Gillum was at 3%. He was at 3% in the polls up until a month before the election. So we know that Democrats and Republicans too, because DeSantis wasn't supposed to win either. He was, nobody knew who he was. And so in politics and in our parties, and specifically in Florida, we like to wait a little bit before we pick our choices. And I think that as we go throughout the state, and we have a 67 county tour that we've been doing all over the state, and people hear my story, we know that people also get thinking, okay, who would be the best candidate to talk about parental rights at a time when that's the attack? How about a parent with a kid in public school? Who would be the best one to beat back the socialism attacks? Who would be the one that would actually bring together a coalition of voters in order for us to win? Who would be the right person when there's an attack on women's reproductive decisions? How about a woman? And so all these reasons, I believe that we can make it, so thank you.
Okay, we have to kind of cut it short because we have to be up at Sumter for a rally up there. But we've got one more question here.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for being here. I want to ask you a question that you can answer. It's on the state level, and I appreciate you being here this morning. Walt Disney World. I moved here from California, a very liberal state. I want to be in a purple state. I know it feels, we want to get back to purple. If what DeSantis does at Disney, and will that take away our state tax? I moved here because there was no state tax. 1 year later, I'm fearing that I'm going to start paying state tax again. If it goes through, can it be reversed?
So the question, the answer to the latter, can it be reversed? Absolutely, first of all. Second of all, I don't believe that we will end up with a state tax in the state of Florida at any point, both Democrat or Republican. We don't need to. But let me say this about Disney and where I think that he really overstepped and why this is actually so dangerous. What he just did is exactly what Maduro does in Venezuela. That is exactly what someone who is a strong-arm kind of leader who doesn't pay attention to the Constitution, because Disney had every right to express their opinion. They're a private corporation, and in this country, that is called the First Amendment. To punish them, by the way, they're not being punished. It is the homeowners of the counties where Disney's at. So we're talking about Orange and Osceola, 25% increase in their homeowners' tax that they are going to see is what's expected. Why? Because now who's going to actually fund the fire, the police, the water, the sewage, the transportation, all these things that were done by Disney. In addition to that, and this is where the rest of us who may not live in those counties comes in, the rest of us are now left with the debt. So there is a clause in there that actually says that if we were to do what DeSantis did, and it seems like nobody bothered to read it, which is, by the way, something that happens very often in Tallahassee. I'm constantly standing up on the floor and saying, did you read the bill? Because it says right here, for example, insurance. Last year, the bill said, we will, it literally said in black and white, there was no sugarcoating it. It said the bills are going to go up. We are allowing the insurance companies to raise, including Citizens, to raise the fees. And I said, next year you're gonna start getting phone calls and everybody's gonna be like, I can't afford my insurance on my home. And what's happening? Yes, we're going to special session here in 2 weeks because of insurance, because homeowners are saying, I can't afford it. So I will tell you that we absolutely, I mean, when it comes back to this, they don't read, and when it comes to Disney, there is a clause there about the fact that the debt that Disney had on their bonds is now Florida who owes it. Immediately when this happened, the ratings of those bonds were dropped, so of course now it costs more money to borrow. Everything that you can think of that is the stupidest thing. If you were a business person, you'd always be thinking about this, but obviously this guy only cares about Iowa and New Hampshire and being a future president. He doesn't care how much it costs all of us. So yes, we have been left with that responsibility. But I don't foresee, you don't have to worry, I don't foresee any Democrat or Republican ever implementing a state tax in Florida. I do think that there are many other things we gotta do with the structure of our taxing, because we have way too many major corporations who are not paying taxes. But the rest of us are, so we should definitely have more of an equalizer, but not an income tax. You're welcome.